What's up guys, we're back at Starlight Drive-In and this time we're going to be working on the restaurant area by here. I spent like 30 minutes dicking around because when I start these things I have no real idea of how I'm going to do it, what it's going to look like, nothing at all. All I know is, like for instance this, all I know is I'm going to be building a restaurant. How I'm going to do it, I don't know. So I just spend a little time trying to come up with some cool ideas. The first thing I knew I wanted to do is wall off the restaurant to separate it from the rest of the market. Going through the fences, I came across these cool walls that I could place inside the floor to make them shorter. And as soon as I saw the curved wall, I knew it was meant to be. So I walled off the area and with a little bit of adjusting, the walls lined up perfectly with the floor. So adding to my previous point of this wall was meant to be, apart from it being 6 foot underground, but that is clearly to stop the mole rats from burrowing under. Speaking about keeping the rats out, I placed a chain link fence on top of the wall to keep unwanted people from entering the restaurant. The corners were a little more trickier to do because the fences wouldn't snap into place. But this gave me the idea of having the corners higher, which in the end looked a lot better. Remember, I'm using the place everywhere mod, so I can toggle object and surface snapping on and off whenever I want, and of course I can place everywhere. I was going to gate off the left side of the restaurant, but since it looked extra shitty, I went with the London look, which worked out pretty good. The corners are far from perfect, but since people are either going to be too drunk or too dehydrated to notice, it doesn't really matter. Moving on to the seating area, I knew I wanted to use these table and chairs since they were red and they really suited the look of this restaurant. So I placed the row of tables down the one side and added these shop counter ends onto the table, which I added a light onto. I wanted to place a row of these rails to separate the next row of tables, but I couldn't get them to snap together. So I placed a row of small floors which I was able to snap the railings to, and then with some minor adjustments I made sure it was lined up properly. Then once again I made an identical row of tables like before. Don't worry too much about the clipping you can see here, I fix it later on. I add wooden walls to the ends of the rows, but don't worry too much about these because I end up deleting them later on because I don't really like the look when the restaurant is finished. Speaking about wooden walls, I add one to each side of the restaurant, placing the diner menu on it so people can get a look at the menu before they enter the restaurant. I added a few more signs around the restaurant and some lights, before placing a bar at the entrance so people can request a table. To finish off this side of the restaurant, I ended up adding a load of clutter, which is probably my top tip when building any settlement is add clutter. It really makes your builds come together. It also makes your computer probably catch on fire as well, but that's a story for another day. As I knew I was just going to repeat the same process on the other side of the restaurant, I moved into the kitchen and started working on that. To make this place look more like a kitchen, I added a few cabinets and surfaces. Then I added a light so people can see, and I cleared out all the clutter from underneath the stairs. To fix the broken tap problem, I replaced it with a water pump. Even though it's pretty big, it still works pretty good. This restaurant is also a bar, so I ended up adding a bell for last orders. Then once again, using the best tip in the world, add loads of clutter to your settlement. But don't go too mad, like I said before, depending on your computer, this can cause your game to crash. And if you remember, I did a Red Rocket speed build, That's exactly what happened to that. The game basically won't even load up if I load that save. So be careful, but do try and add as much clutter as you can. I came across these fancy little cupboard doors, which I thought fit perfectly to cover the windows on the front. The cool thing about these little doors are they do work like normal doors, so you can open and close them. Now time to cue a clutter montage. I almost forgot a key part of a kitchen, the stove. So I ended up placing the stove inside the counter so it didn't look too weird, since I was basically out of room to place it anywhere else. And more clutter. I added spotlights to the top of the roof, and the cool thing about clipping these into the roof is it's thick enough so they don't come through the bottom. These spotlights really bring a Hollywood feel to this place, which just gave me actually a really good idea. I think I'm going to place a car or maybe a motorbike on top of the roof and have spotlights facing the other way shining on it, because that would look pretty cool for a diner. So I need to actually get my notepad and make a note. So yeah. Like I was saying earlier, this restaurant also doubles up as a bar. So I added a bar on the side of the restaurant, added appropriate signs and stools to go along with it. Since I was done with the bar and the kitchen, I went on to finishing the seating area, which then I came across these cool red lights. And I went a bit nuts with placing them around the edge of the roof. Like I said earlier, I removed these wooden walls and ended up fixing the tables and chairs so they weren't glitching into the wall. The diner was looking pretty good, but one thing that always comes to my mind when I think of a diner is checkered floors. Luckily, I have a mod for that, so I placed a load of checkered floors and then placed them slowly into the ground. The actual ground glitches through in some areas, which I really like because it makes the diner have a really post-apocalyptic look. Okay guys, that's it. We have finished on the diner. I will in the future make little adjustments, whether I show you them or not. At the end, when I'm finished this place, I will do a whole walk through the whole place, looking at all the little bits and bobs we've done. In the next video, we're going to be hitting up the marketplace itself. And if you liked the video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you have any cool ideas, please place them in the comments below, and also start thinking about where we could go next. And please tell me what you think about the building so far. So thanks for watching guys, and goodbye.